Thanks very much. We're here at the Standard Bank Africa Unlock Conference that's taking place over today and tomorrow. And as you can tell by the theme, it's really about unlocking Africa's economic potential. We have been in discussion with other guests earlier, but I am joined in our mini studio here by Andrew Mashanda, who's the head of Africa Regions and Offshore and at Business and Commercial Banking at Standard Bank, and Simone Cooper, who is the head of Business and Commercial Banking of Standard Bank South Africa. And really, the discussions that have been had here are really about reshaping or resetting the narrative about Africa and its trajectory. So without any further ado, let's get into that. Thank you so much to both of you for speaking to us. Andrew, let me start with you. What sort of work is being done in the area of getting the necessary infrastructure up and running across the continent in order to make it ready for the goals of the Africa Free Trade Continental Area? And how is capital intersecting with that?
I think we start off with probably the most basic. You know, on the African continent, when you build a road, you create an economy. So there have been significant investments that have been made in road infrastructure, and we've participated quite actively in the work that business and commercial clients have done in places like Zimbabwe, Uganda, even in Ghana, where they've actually worked with government to help with the construction of roads. And we know those are a catalyst for distribution of goods and services. I think we've also looked quite carefully around the role that we play as thought leaders in ensuring that the discourse that's taking place across the continent in terms of how do we remove the non-tariff barriers that exist, the documentation requirements across borders, the visa regimes across, making it easy for goods and services to move from country to country. There's also the issue of tariffs across Africa. We may talk of tariffs between Africa and the rest of the world, but amongst ourselves as African countries, we also have tariff regimes that have been an impediment to actually the active participation of SMEs. But you'll be happy to note that the tenacity of the African entrepreneur can never be stopped. I often think of the time we lived in Malawi, where there's a road that actually separates Mozambique and Malawi. And when the borders were more difficult for people to traverse, they simply crossed the road and moved goods from Malawi into Mozambique and from Mozambique back into Malawi. So ideally, those should actually be regulated using the policies and the governance processes that we would like to believe that we're playing a fairly active and progressive role in advancing amongst our governments. We've also given our enviable sort of geographical footprint, plus our linkage into China with our relationship, our strategic partnership with ICBC, and the offices and representation offices we've got around the globe, that we've got access to pools of capital that we can make available for the SMEs that are trying to do business across the African continent. And also remember, we're an investor on the continent, so we do understand Africa because it is our home, and we believe that it is our responsibility to drive Africa's growth.
Simone, talking of SMEs account for about 80% of employment on the African continent. Yes, I know you look after South Africa, but you have broader ideas around how, you know, impacting SMEs right across the continent can work. And yet, in the South African context, we often hear SMEs complain that the financial sector has really not come to the party as much as they would like in terms of financing and other assistance. What kind of initiatives are in play, given that the financial sector is aware that it needs to intersect with the needs of SMEs? What sort of things are you guys doing to be more available to ensure that SMEs simply do more than survive and actually thrive?
I think it's a really important topic and one that is a national imperative currently. I think from a Standard Bank perspective, the things that we are really trying to do is, one, to make sure it's not just around a conversation on access to funding and finance, because that's one component. SMEs obviously need access to market as well as access to development and information, and making sure that they can grow their businesses. So ours is a three-pronged approach. We have a strong relationship management team through which we do try to make sure that we're providing the necessary guidance, support, expertise for businesses to understand how they can grow. The second component is then access to market. So we are fortunate that we bank a number of corporates, we bank a number of larger businesses. So how do we link SMEs into those opportunities, into those components? Andrew spoke about infrastructure. Obviously there's been the energy infrastructure build out that's taken place in South Africa. It's now a focus on the railways and the ports, and there'll be opportunities within that for SMEs. So how do we work together with our larger businesses to link SMEs into those opportunities? And then obviously there is access to finance. And I think what we're trying to do is to make sure that we've got available products that suit SMEs. We have a product which is called BizFlex, which looks to say how do you provide funding to a business through which they can repay based on their turnover. So it's not linked to a fixed repayment cycle, it's through their turnover that they repay. And that's how we're trying to make sure we remain relevant, we drive the sector, and we actually grow the sector. We're all about making sure that we're amplifying growth and ensuring that we grow SMEs rather than just leave them to sustain.
Yeah. One last question. Only one of you can grab it. I'm not going to choose who. But in terms of capital markets, how important are capital markets on the continent, and what can be done to ensure that they're more liquid so that they can fund investment?
I can attempt, but I'll probably leave some room for Simone to come in.
And your answer needs to be brief.
Okay. No, capital markets need to develop. We need to deepen capital markets. I think one of the challenges that we have is raising capital on open markets across Africa. There's certainly a role we can play in actually actively increasing the number of companies that list on these exchanges, at least number of instruments that are created to allow for the free flow of capital that businesses can access, actually accessing markets to raise capital outside of their balance sheets as well. There's an opportunity for us to do that. We've done it successfully with our corporate clients. We can move the same capability into our business and commercial.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much to both of you for having spoken to us. That was Andrew Mashanda, the head of Africa Regions and Offshore at Business and Commercial Banking at Standard Bank, and Simone Cooper, head of Business and Commercial Banking at Standard Bank, South Africa. With that, it's back to you in studio.